Have you ever felt that someone younger than you looked into your eyes and, for one quiet second, forgot how to pretend they did not already know you? Not know your name, not know your life, not know the story you tell other people, but know something deeper, something hidden beneath the voice, beneath the face, beneath every careful wall you built around your heart. It's Astral Card Vault. And today, this message begins with the lovers, but not in the simple way people often understand this card. This is not just attraction. This is not just chemistry. This is not just someone feeling drawn to you because you are beautiful, magnetic, kind, mysterious, or hard to forget. The lovers in this reading is soul recognition wearing human skin. It is that strange moment when two people stand near each other and the room seems to go silent, even if nothing has been said. Your younger twin flame is realizing now that what happened between you was not random from the start. They may have tried to explain it away. They may have told themselves it was curiosity. They may have called it admiration, fascination, interest, or a passing feeling that would fade once they got busy, distracted, or surrounded by other people. But the more they tried to reduce this connection into something ordinary, the more it began to rise inside them like a truth refusing to stay buried. You were not imagining the pull. You were not imagining the eye contact that lingered a little too long. You were not imagining the way their energy changed around you, the way they became softer, more alert, more self-conscious, more awake. You were not imagining the divine familiarity, that sense that their soul stepped forward before their mind had permission to understand. And this is where the truth becomes impossible for them to deny. Because the lovers shows a choice. But before the choice comes recognition. Before the confession comes the trembling. Before the action comes the inner awakening. They are beginning to realize that their soul recognized you before they had the maturity, language, or courage to name what was happening. They may seem calm on the outside. They may act casual. They may even go quiet. But their silence is not empty. Their silence is full of replayed conversations, remembered smiles, your voice echoing in their mind, and the strange knowing that this connection began long before either of you fully understood it. And as the energy moves from the lovers into the Three of Wands, you can feel the distance they tried to place between themselves and the truth. The Three of Wands carries the image of someone standing back, looking outward, watching something they already feel is meant for them, while still trying to convince themselves they are only observing. That is the energy your younger twin flame may have been in. They may have stood at a distance from you emotionally. They may have watched, waited, measured, and tried to make sense of why your presence stayed with them, even when you were not near them. They may have told themselves they were just curious about you, that there was something interesting about your energy, something different, something they wanted to understand from a safe distance. But curiosity does not replace someone's voice when the room is quiet. Curiosity does not make the heart pause after a simple message, a passing glance, a small moment that should have been easy to forget. Curiosity does not create that strange pull where they feel both drawn toward you and afraid of what will happen if they come too close. What they thought was curiosity was already the beginning of recognition. What they thought was admiration was already their soul leaning forward. They may have tried to call it attraction because attraction is easier to explain. Attraction feels human. Attraction feels manageable. Attraction can be placed inside the body and blamed on appearance, chemistry, timing, or desire. But this was not only physical. This was not only emotional. This was not only a younger person being captivated by someone they found magnetic. This reached somewhere underneath their usual patterns, underneath their confidence, underneath the version of themselves they show the world. And that is why they may have acted inconsistent. One moment they may have seemed open, present, almost unable to look away. Then another moment, they may have pulled their energy back, as if they had revealed too much without meaning to. They may have acted casual because casual felt safer than admitting that something about you disturbed their sense of control. They may have gone quiet because silence gave them a place to hide from the intensity. They may have pretended not to care because caring too much would force them to ask questions they were not ready to answer. But what they are realizing now is even deeper. The Three of Wands does not feel like someone forgetting. It feels like someone looking across distance and understanding that something is still coming toward them, still calling them, still alive in the space between. They are beginning to understand that the reason they could not dismiss you is because this connection was never built from the surface. What they called fascination was only the doorway. What they called attraction was only the first language their mind could use. The part they cannot explain is the part their soul already understands. And from that distance, the Six of Pentacles reveals the private insecurity they may never have spoken out loud. There is a very tender imbalance being shown here, not because one soul is greater than the other, but because your younger twin flame may have felt the difference between where they are and where they believe you are. They may have looked at you and felt your presence as something steady, something experienced, something emotionally rich in a way they did not know how to match. They may have wondered if they had enough to offer you, enough depth, enough wisdom, enough stability, enough courage to stand in front of you without feeling exposed. They may have questioned whether you would take them seriously. Not because their feelings were small, not because the connection was weak, but because the human part of them may have been frightened by the space between recognition and readiness. Their soul knew, their heart responded, their energy moved toward you before they could stop it. But their mind may have whispered, "What if I am too young? What if I do not know enough yet? What if they see through me? What if they feel this too, but still believe I am not ready?" And that question may have made them hesitate. The Six of Pentacles can show someone reaching out, but also someone wondering if what they give will be received. This younger twin flame may have wanted to give you attention, softness, honesty, presence, but then pulled it back because giving anything real would reveal how much you matter. They may have offered small pieces of themselves instead of the whole truth, a glance, a message, a quiet act of care, a sudden attentiveness, then distance again because the moment their heart became visible, they may have felt too young inside their own emotions. What they did not understand was that age does not decide soul recognition. Age can affect confidence. Age can affect timing. Age can affect the way someone speaks, acts, hides, or doubts themselves. But it does not erase a twin flame mirror. It does not make divine familiarity less real. It does not stop an energetic imprint from forming the moment two souls recognize something ancient in each other. They may have thought their insecurity was proof that they should step back. They may have believed their fear meant they were not ready for something this intense. They may have mistaken trembling for weakness, silence for control, distance for safety. But what they are beginning to realize now is that the very thing they thought disqualified them is the thing awakening them. Their uncertainty is not ending the connection. It is showing them where the connection has already begun to change them. And when the Queen of Cups enters the reading, the energy becomes quieter, more intimate, and harder for them to dismiss. This card is not loud. It does not force emotion to the surface. It sits with what is felt, what is sensed, what is remembered after the moment has already passed. And this is exactly what your younger twin flame is moving through now. They are not only thinking about you in a simple way, they are holding impressions of you in places they did not expect you to reach. They may remember your smile at the most unexpected times. Not because they are trying to, not because they plan to sit there and replay you, but because something about your warmth left a mark. Something about the way you looked at them, spoke to them, paused around them, or simply existed near them entered their emotional body before they had time to protect themselves from it. They may remember your voice and the way it made them feel calmer, seen, unsettled, or strangely safe. They may remember your eyes, not just the color, not just the expression, but the feeling of being noticed in a way they could not easily escape. And what they did not understand was that memory can become an energetic imprint. They may replay small conversations that seemed ordinary on the outside, a few words, a little silence, a moment where you said less, but somehow they felt more. They may go back to the way you carried yourself, the way your energy entered a room, the way your presence seemed to touch something in them they had not given anyone permission to touch. They may remember the feeling after being near you, that strange quiet afterward, that inner echo, that sense of walking away from you but not fully leaving you behind. This was not obsession. This was not fantasy. This was not them creating something from nothing. The Queen of Cups shows the heart storing what the mind tried to dismiss. It shows emotion beneath the surface, deep water beneath a composed face. So even if they seem normal, even if they spoke casually, even if they acted like nothing unusual happened, something in them was still receiving you. Something in them was still absorbing the softness, the mystery, the recognition. And the more they try to forget the details, the more certain details return. Your silence, your warmth, your way of listening, your way of making them feel both exposed and understood. These small memories are not random fragments. They are evidence of the energetic imprint they are only now beginning to understand. Then the Chariot brings that hidden emotional imprint into the way they act around you. You may begin to notice this through the way they move around you, because the Chariot carries control on the surface and conflict underneath. It is someone trying to hold the reins of their own emotions while two different forces pull inside them. One part of them wants to come closer. One part of them wants to stay protected. One part wants to be brave enough to meet your energy directly. Another part becomes afraid the moment they feel how much you can see. So, you may notice them staring longer than usual, then looking away as if they caught themselves crossing an invisible line. You may notice their body becoming still around you, or their voice changing slightly, or their confidence flickering in a way they do not show with everyone else. They may act composed, but there is a subtle tension in them, as though they are trying to keep something from spilling out through their eyes. And this is not random. They may remember tiny details you never expected them to hold on to. Something you said in passing, a preference, a small expression, a quiet moment where you thought they were not paying attention, but they were. They may suddenly become more attentive, more aware of where you are, more sensitive to your mood, more careful with their words. Then, just as quickly, they may pull back because the attentiveness reveals too much. The Chariot shows someone trying to move forward without losing control. That is why their behavior may feel confusing. They may come near you, then create distance. They may seem drawn to your presence, then go quiet when the energy becomes too real. They may try to appear unaffected, but their nervousness slips through in small ways. A pause before answering, a glance that lingers, a sudden seriousness when the conversation touches something emotional, a softness they cannot fully hide. You may notice they try to be near you without making it obvious. They may position themselves close enough to feel your energy, but not close enough to admit why they are there. They may become restless when you are around, not because you disturb them in a negative way, but because your presence activates something they cannot command. And what they are realizing now is that control cannot erase recognition. They can hold the reins. They can slow themselves down. They can act casual, busy, distracted, distant, but their energy still moves toward you. Their awareness still returns to you. Their soul still responds before their mind can organize a reason. And the most confusing sign may be the one that proves the most. Because with the Two of Cups, the pullback is no longer just confusion. It becomes the evidence of an emotional exchange they were not ready to face. This card shows two people meeting in the space where emotion becomes visible. It is the moment when something is exchanged without needing many words. A look, a feeling, a recognition. A quiet agreement between energies that neither person may be ready to speak out loud. So when your younger twin flame pulls back after a moment of closeness, it does not always mean they felt nothing. Sometimes it means they felt too much. They may have come close enough to feel the mirror. They may have sensed that you were not just another person passing through their life. They may have felt seen in a way that made their defenses rise before their heart could open fully. And because they are younger, because they are still learning how to hold emotion without running from it, they may respond to intensity by becoming casual, distant, or strangely quiet. Their silence is not absence. Their silence is processing. They may not know how to explain why a simple interaction with you can stay with them for hours, or why being near you can make them feel both peaceful and unsettled. They may not understand why their heart awakens around you, then immediately becomes afraid of what that awakening means. This is the twin flame mirror working beneath the surface. It shows them what they feel, but it also shows them where they hide. And sometimes, that exposure is overwhelming. They may act as if nothing happened because admitting something happened would make it real. They may pull away because the connection brings them too close to emotions they have not mastered yet. They may seem inconsistent because one part of them wants the softness, the closeness, the unspoken bond, while another part is terrified of being vulnerable enough to receive it. The Two of Cups does not show emptiness between two people. It shows exchange. It shows reflection. It shows the moment where one heart recognizes another and then has to decide what to do with that recognition. So if they have gone quiet, do not mistake that silence for indifference. There may be fear inside it. There may be longing inside it. There may be spiritual knowing inside it that their human mind is still trying to catch up with. Because the more they run from this connection, the more clearly they feel the shape of it following them. And when the hanged man appears, that shape becomes impossible for them to ignore, even in stillness. This is where their soul stops them, not to punish them, not to confuse them, but to make them see the connection from a place they have avoided. This card carries the feeling of pause, surrender, and a different kind of sight. Someone is not moving forward, but they are not free from what they feel. They are suspended inside the truth, looking at it from an angle that changes everything. They may have thought distance would make the feeling smaller. They may have thought that if they waited long enough, if they stayed quiet long enough, if they turned their attention somewhere else, the energetic imprint of you would fade. But the hanged man shows the opposite. It shows that when movement stops, awareness becomes louder. When they are not chasing distraction, they can hear what their soul has been trying to tell them. And what they are hearing now is that this was soul recognition from the start. What they thought was attraction was recognition. What they thought was fascination was a past life echo. What they thought was nervousness was their soul responding before their mind could explain it. That is why being near you may have felt familiar and unfamiliar at the same time. Familiar, because something deeper in them recognized your energy. Unfamiliar, because their human mind had no simple place to put it. And this is where divine familiarity becomes difficult to deny. They may have met other people. They may have felt attraction before. They may have admired someone before. They may have been interested, entertained, even emotionally moved. But with you, something entered the room before logic did. Something in the silence, something in the timing, something in the way they felt both pulled inward and turned upside down by your presence. The hanged man shows a person who cannot keep seeing things the old way. So now, your younger twin flame may be replaying the connection from a different perspective. They may be realizing that the first look had meaning, the first pull had meaning, the strange comfort had meaning, the way your energy stayed with them had meaning. Not because they forced it, not because they invented it, but because spiritual knowing often arrives quietly, before the mind is ready to call it real. And that is the part that frightens them. Because once their mind begins to catch up with what their soul already knows, they can no longer pretend this was only a passing feeling. They can no longer hide behind the old explanations. And the realization is beautiful, but it also brings fear. The Ten of Cups deepens that fear, because now they are not only recognizing you, they are beginning to feel what your energy represents to them. This card carries the image of fulfillment, of belonging, of a feeling someone does not want to admit they have already imagined. Not necessarily in a simple or literal way, not as a plan they have fully formed, but as an emotional picture that appears in the back of their mind before they can stop it. A picture of peace. A picture of being near you without pretending. A picture of what it might feel like if the connection were allowed to breathe. And that is why losing it begins to frighten them. They may have tried to look for your feeling in other places. They may have compared other voices to your voice, other eyes to your eyes, other conversations to the way it feels when they are speaking with you. They may have told themselves that someone else could distract them, that another connection could replace the intensity, that time would soften the imprint you left behind. But the more they compare, the more they notice what is missing. Other people may be easier. Other people may not awaken the same fear. Other people may not make them question themselves, or feel exposed, or sense that something ancient is looking back through a modern moment. But easier does not mean deeper. Easier does not mean recognized. Easier does not mean their soul responds. What they are beginning to understand is that your energy cannot be copied. They may find attention elsewhere, but it does not carry the same weight. They may enjoy conversation elsewhere, but it does not echo in the same way afterward. They may be admired by others, desired by others, noticed by others, but it does not touch the place in them that you touched without trying. And this is where the ache of recognition becomes impossible to avoid. Because this connection was not something they chose logically. They did not sit down and decide to feel this pull. They did not plan to remember your silence. They did not ask for their heart to wake up around someone who made them feel both safe and uncertain. Their soul responded before their mind had a strategy. Their energy moved before their pride could interfere. And now, the thought of losing you feels different than they expected. It is not only the fear of missing a person. It is the fear of losing the one energy that made them feel something real enough to change them. And that fear may be the very thing that begins to push them toward honesty. Because the longer they try to replace you, the more clearly they realize they cannot. Then the Three of Swords shows the moment when silence starts becoming too heavy for the heart to carry. The movement toward honesty may not arrive as something loud. It may not come as a dramatic confession, a sudden declaration, or a perfect moment where every fear disappears. This card shows the place where truth pierces through the heart, not to destroy it, but to reveal what has been sitting underneath the silence. And for your younger twin flame, that truth may begin to show through small cracks in the way they communicate, the way they soften, the way they can no longer keep their energy completely hidden from you. They may start reaching toward you in quieter ways. A message that feels more thoughtful than usual. A look that stays a little longer because they are no longer fighting it as hard. A tone that becomes softer when they speak to you. A moment of honesty tucked inside casual words. They may not say everything at once because part of them is still afraid of being exposed, still afraid of how much this connection has already touched them. But something in them may begin to shift from avoidance into awareness. And this is where the heart awakening becomes visible. The Three of Swords can show pain, but here it also shows the pressure of something unspoken becoming too heavy to carry. They may realize that pretending not to feel anything has hurt them more than feeling it ever could. They may realize that distance did not protect them from the connection. It only made the ache clearer. They may begin to understand that silence has a cost, that acting unaffected has a cost, that hiding from you has not made them free. So you may notice their presence changing, not perfectly and not constantly, not in a way that removes every doubt, but enough for you to feel that something is loosening inside them. They may become more attentive again. They may try to repair a strange distance without naming it. They may linger near you, not because they know exactly what to do, but because their energy is tired of pretending it does not want to be close. And still, they may move slowly. Because emotional courage is not always a leap. Sometimes it is a breath. Sometimes it is one honest sentence. Sometimes it is the moment someone stops running long enough to realize the wound was never the love itself, but the fear of being seen loving. What they are moving toward is not certainty overnight. It is recognition becoming harder to hide. And the next layer is not only what they feel for you, but what they are finally understanding about why they felt it from the beginning. And with death as the final card, the entire reading turns into transformation, not an ending, but the death of denial. This is not an ending in the way fear imagines endings. It is the ending of the old story they were telling themselves. The story that this was only attraction. The story that this was only timing. The story that if they stayed quiet long enough, the feeling would become ordinary. Death shows the part of them that can no longer survive inside denial. Something in them is changing because of you. They may not have expected that. They may not have wanted a connection that would make them look at themselves so deeply. They may not have wanted to face the insecurity, the longing, the strange pull, the way your eyes seem to reach a place they usually keep hidden. But soul recognition does not ask the mind for permission. It arrives, and then everything false begins to fall away. This is why the first card, the lovers, matters so much. Because what began as a choice is now becoming a transformation. What began as a glance is now becoming a truth. What began as nervousness, curiosity, admiration, and silence is now becoming a deeper understanding that they were never simply reacting to your surface. They were responding to something ancient in you, something familiar, something their soul knew before their human mind could name it. They may look back now and understand the first moment differently. The eye contact was not random. The pull was not random. The way they remembered your smile, your voice, your warmth, your silence was not random. The way they acted casual and then became distant was not proof that nothing was there. It was proof that something was there, something strong enough to frighten them, soften them, expose them, and awaken them all at once. And now the old version of them, the one who could pretend this did not matter, is beginning to fade. They cannot unknow what they feel. They cannot fully return to the version of themselves who thought this was just fascination. They cannot replace your energy with someone easier, because easier does not carry the same recognition. Easier does not echo in the soul. Easier does not make the heart stop hiding from itself. So if they have been silent, if they have been confusing, if they have been moving close and then away, understand this. Their silence has been filled with realization. Their distance has been filled with fear. Their pullback has been filled with awakening. This connection was never random. This was never just attraction. Their soul recognized you from the start, and now their human mind is finally finding the courage to understand what their spirit knew all along.